Is this what total war with Iran looks like? In the days following the 4th of July, we have seen renewed attacks on the Strait of Hormuz shipping by Iran. This time it was more than just taking pot shots at one or two ships. UK MTO is reporting 4 verified attacks starting on July 5th. If you're asking why Iran is continuing to fire on ships even after the previous round of US retaliatory strikes, you're not alone.
If they want to make a deal, why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
Because they're sort of crazy, to be honest with you. They're sort of crazy. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal.
That was President Trump's explanation, and you may or may not agree with that. However, I have a different explanation to offer. And be sure to watch to the end of the video. As I was preparing to film this, a new report came out that has to do with Iran's nuclear program, and if it's true, is very concerning. It looks like, at least on the surface, that the war with Iran has once again gone hot. U.S. officials have said that they are preparing for weeks of strikes against Iran, according to I-24 News. Additionally, there are reports that the U.S. bombed a railway bridge the other night in Iran's only deepwater port on the Indian Ocean yesterday, July 9th. This appears to be a new target strategy for the U.S. We're going to talk about all of that and more, but first, we are a new channel, and as such, growth is the goal. So be sure to hit the subscribe button, and while you're at it, like and share this video so the algorithm knows to push this video out to more people that could use this information. Now that that's out of the way, I'm sure that most of you saw that starting on Sunday, July 5th, as Americans were winding down from a weekend of 4th of July festivities, Iran decided to start its own fireworks display by attacking the first of what would grow to 4 ships in the Strait of Hormuz. And as usual, this new round of fighting caused gas prices to go up. I filled my vehicle on Monday for $2.93 a gallon, and by Tuesday morning, the price had gone up to $3.46. That's just one of the reasons that we need to pay attention to events around the world as preppers. Personally, every time Iran does anything to restrict traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, I top off on fuel. Why? Because I know as soon as the price of oil starts to go back up, gas stations raise prices. I don't think they wait for the next shipment anymore. There's someone in a giant office somewhere that sends out the order to jack up prices as soon as he or she gets that price alert on oil futures. They do this for one reason. They know that we'll pay it. In the modern world, we have to have gas so that we can get to work. It's that simple. While we are talking about petroleum products, that leads to the first response on Iran's attacks on shipping. The United States Treasury Department responded by canceling Iran's license to export oil during the ceasefire. That response eventually grew to include bombing of Iranian military targets, to include the usual missile and drone facilities, military bases, and other sites deemed to be a threat to the Strait of Hormuz. It's that ability to threaten shipping in the Strait of Hormuz that Iran has been counting on. I played you the clip of the reporter asking President Trump why Iran is attacking shipping at the beginning of this video, and I said that I would give you my thoughts. President Trump claimed that it's because Iran is crazy and out of control. My take is different. While the people that are in charge of Iran are certainly not the most mentally stable people in the world, I believe that the attacks on shipping is a calculated strategy. Iran thinks that their control over the strait is the ultimate trump card. As long as they demonstrate a willingness to use violence and restrict passage through the Strait of Hormuz, the IRGC sees this as leverage in any negotiations. It's no more complicated than that. And that's why those launch sites near the strait are so important to Iran. And let me know in the comments what you think. If Iran continues to randomly attack ships in the strait, it not only makes ships, captains, and crews reconsider making the trip, but it also has the effect of spooking owners and insurers. According to Reuters, insurers are advising ship owners that they may want to hold off on sending those ships through the strait. This will keep the world from being able to fully replenish oil supplies. Traffic in the strait has virtually come to a complete stop, according to Bloomberg. And in Iran's eyes, that's the point. Iran is willing to bring the world's economy crashing down if they do not get what they want. The more everybody else hurts, the better for Iran's bargaining position. The Hormuz letter reported that Tanker Tracker is saying that Iran has pushed out 10 million barrels of oil during all of this because the Iranians want a buffer so they can fully close the strait without collapsing their own economy. This would be a reason why Iran is so willing to collapse the whole world's economy. They think they have a buffer as well as a possible alternate route to send oil to market. But that possible alternate route may not be usable now that the U.S. has bombed Iran's only deepwater port in the Indian Ocean. There is no chance of shipping oil out of a bombed port. Now, this is no guarantee that Iran will rethink their strategy. The report saying that the Iranian foreign minister has said that he cannot guarantee that the IRGC will stop shooting at ships in the Strait of Hormuz. But it appears that this plan is to cut off Iran's ability to put oil on any market. I would expect to see more such strikes in the days to come. If the U.S. can cut Iran's purse strings, that may get the right person's attention. I know in the rest of the world, if you cut off a nation, group, or individual's funding, that tends to encourage them to listen. Now let's talk about the reason that the U.S. bombed the railway bridge. Resupply. With the bridge out of commission, that cuts the supply lines from Russia and China. If Iran wants to keep attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz or the other states around them, then they run the risk of running out of munitions if they can't just keep bringing in more. Of course, cutting that resupply line is not stopping Iran from retaliating. It has been reported that Iran lobbed missiles into surrounding countries last night, July 9th. The reports are that Iran shot at U.S. bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. This in itself is nothing new. Iran always tries to take out U.S. bases in those same countries every time. But as a result, something new and different happened in response to Iran's retaliation. Earlier in the day, yesterday, reports started showing up of explosions being heard over Iran. You're probably thinking the same thing that I did. This is just the latest round of U.S. responding to Iran's attacks. Apparently, that's wrong. The U.S. claimed that it was not us. This was the situation for a while with the reports of attacks on Iran and no one doing the reporting knowing who was responsible. Eventually, the first report started coming in speculating that this was retaliation from Kuwait and Bahrain. Some even said the entire Persian Gulf was in chaos at the time. And that's no surprise, as this would be the first time that other nations have joined in the festivities over Iran. I would suspect that everyone is tired of getting shot at. It would be like having a belligerent want-to-be-tough guy next door. He pushes everyone else around because, according to him, he runs the block. He gets mad when people have a cookout and don't bother to clear it with him. So he starts smashing windows. Eventually, everyone has had enough and someone has to put him in his place. That could be what we're seeing here. The question is, will it be enough? Somehow I doubt it. Iran is already kicking around the idea of trying to shut it all down again if the reports are true. I-24 News reported that Iran is claiming that U.S. strikes jeopardize the reopening of the strait. And of course, there is speculation that once the supreme leader is in the ground, the IRGC may feel the need to escalate. All of these things together lead me to believe that another ceasefire isn't too likely. That ship has not only sailed, but was the target of an Iranian drone. There comes a point where war just takes off on its own, and there's no going back. Unfortunately, I think that point is right around the corner if it hasn't fully arrived. President Trump is once again claiming that Iran has reached out, begging for talks with a deal as the ultimate goal. As you may have already guessed, Iran is saying that that is not the case. Once again, it's like the movie Groundhog Day. It's the same play over and over again. Oil prices start to go back up, and we are told that a deal is at hand, or at the very least, the sides want to talk. The sad thing is that President Trump keeps doing this because the right people fall for it every time. Who are those right people, you ask? The people, organizations, and businesses that are playing the futures market. Word goes out that we are either close to new talks or a deal of some kind, and that will restore the flow of oil and the upward pricing pressure subsides. That always lasts for a few days till Iran starts droning ships again. Then the US bombs Iran again. Next, we hear that Iran is begging to talk and wants to make a deal. This process is played out over and over again with exactly the same result. This time the story is changing up a bit. Now, President Trump is saying that even if there are talks, there will be no ceasefire. Eventually, we would think that people would stop falling for it. At some point, it's not going to matter if Iran makes a deal or not, because oil reserves will run dry. Once the whole world hears the slurping sound as the storage runs dry, no amount of price manipulation will keep a lid on oil prices. The sad truth is that this conflict has to go on till there is a clear winner, and we are not there yet, despite what anybody tells you. What you and I need to do as preppers in all of this is to stay aware of what's going on. Like I told you earlier, when I see new attacks that threaten the oil supply, I top off with gas before the gas station has a chance to jack up the prices. Personally, I don't have the funds to be able to not care how high the price is, and I'm sure that most of you are in the same boat. We also have to remember that a whole lot of products that we use every day contain petroleum or its byproducts as an ingredient, somehow, some way. From food to the packaging that it's in, and countless other things that we use every day and never think about, it's everywhere. And let's not forget the transportation of all those products. While the supply of oil is in doubt, the price of everything is going up. It's never a bad idea to stock up on things you use a lot if you can. The one thing that we know for sure is that it's not going to be any cheaper later on, especially if things devolve to the point where some of these things are harder to get a hold of. Scarcity equals higher prices. That's one of the core pillars of our economy. And if everything I talked about doesn't suggest scarcity, then how about this? New reports indicate that 2 carrier groups are headed to Iran right now because President Trump has threatened to reinstate the naval blockade. If that's not enough, Israel is now saying that Iran definitely has chemical weapons. We all know what happened the last time we were told that a country in the region had such weapons. On top of all of that, CNN is reporting that they have gotten a hold of satellite imagery that indicates that Iran may be attempting to rebuild their nuclear sites. This rebuilding effort possibly started before the MOU was signed, meaning Iran would have signed it while actively violating it. This would tell us 2 things. First, Iran can't be trusted. I know that we all knew that to begin with. But at least in my mind, this confirms the very real possibility that Iran is making efforts to complete the task of building nuclear weapons. Secondly, the Trump administration has had to have figured this out before CNN and probably knew all of this before the MOU was signed. That would lead me to believe that the MOU was nothing more than a stall tactic on the US's part. It has been an instrument to buy time for a much larger military action that would have to include boots on the ground. I suspect that weather is the main deciding factor for timing. No matter how hot it currently is where you live, I bet it's nowhere near as hot as it is in Iran right now. Once it starts to cool off over there is when I would expect to see real movement toward ground invasion. If you think I missed anything, I'm completely off base, or if you have any suggestions on improvement of these videos, please leave a comment. I'm always looking for ways to get better at this. That's all I know for now. Be sure to keep an eye on everything and check back later because things change. With that, I'm out. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.